Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to explore the insights from your source material, and today, well, we're unpacking something really significant for the Catholic Church.
Mm.
It's the recent election of Pope Leo XIV and all the intense hopes now tied to his pontificate.
That's right.
Our mission here is to really understand the history, the impact, and these deep aspirations, specifically around the traditional Latin Mass. And we're drawing directly from the material provided by www.epistles.online.
And he's an author providing, I think, a really valuable resource. It's for Catholics looking for that balanced view, neither modernist nor ultra-traditionalist.
Exactly, a needed perspective.
And what's so fascinating right off the bat is how this election, Pope Leo XIV, formerly Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost, elected May 8th, 2025, it just immediately sparked this profound hope for many people.
Hope around what, specifically?
Well, he's seen as, or at least reportedly inclined towards traditional practices. That resonates hugely, especially, with his chosen name.
Yeah.
Leo, exactly, like Pope Saint Leo XIII, who's long been revered as sort of a guardian of the Church's sacred deposit of faith. So there's this historical echo right away.
Setting the stage, as you say.
Yeah, it really sets the stage for what many hope his papacy might bring.
And that hope feels particularly sharp when you talk about the wounds, as the source puts it, caused by one specific document, Traditionis Custodes.
Absolutely central to this.
This wasn't just like a small rule change, was it? Our source frames it as really pivotal. It forced faithful Catholics to grapple, directly with obedience, conscience, the nature of tradition itself.
It turned a theological debate into something very real, very lived, and often quite painful for, millions.
So take us back, Traditionis Custodes. What exactly did it do?
Okay, so July 2021, Pope Francis issues this motu proprio. Traditionis Custodes, meaning guardians of the tradition. Ironic, given the content.
How so?
Well, it fundamentally changed the Church's stance on the traditional Roman liturgy. It rolled back many of the freedoms Pope Benedict XVI had granted back in 2007 with his own motu proprio, Summorum Pontificum.
So Benedict opened doors, Francis closed them.
In essence, yes. It ushered in a much more restrictive time for people devoted to the traditional Latin Mass, the TLM, or the Tridentine Mass, the one celebrated using the 1962 Roman Missal.
Right. And our source, epistles.online, makes a point about how this happened. It mentions Diane Montagna's reporting.
Ah, yes. That report suggested Pope Francis implemented it largely by his own will.
Without really consulting the majority of bishops, who apparently wanted to continue with Summorum Pontificum.
Right. The source notes the bishops felt more restrictions would actually cause more harm than good.
So how did this implementation feel like more than just, say, a policy adjustment? What was the real-world impact?
Well, it wasn't just a shift on paper. For priests, especially those ordained after July 16th, 2021, it was a huge change.
That's it.
If they wanted to celebrate the traditional Latin Mass, they suddenly had to submit a formal request to their bishop.
Okay.
And then the bishop, in turn, had to consult the apostolic see, basically, the Pope and the Central Vatican administration.
So layers of approval needed.
Exactly. And for many priests, something that was maybe a daily part of their ministry, something totally permitted before, it suddenly became a privilege, something they had to ask for again.
A constant reminder that it could be taken away.
That's it. That's the real-world impact,
Yeah.
the uncertainty.
And it wasn't just individual priests feeling this, right? Bishops got new rules, too.
Oh, definitely. Bishops faced new mandates. They had to ensure that any groups attached to the old rite didn't reject the validity of the Novus Ordo.
The Novus Ordo being the new order of Mass, the common form post-Vatican II.
Correct. And the source points out this suspicion about rejecting the Novus Ordo is often just unfounded.
What else were bishops told?
Well, the traditional Mass couldn't be celebrated in regular parish churches anymore. No new personal parishes dedicated to the old rite could be set up.
Wow.
Bishops also had to designate specific days for its celebration. Readings had to be in the vernacular, not Latin. And only certain priests, proficient in Latin, knowledgeable about the 62 Missal could be assigned.
And no new groups?
No new groups devoted to the traditional liturgy could be formed, period.
So you put all that together, it's a picture of a really dramatic pastoral shift.
Absolutely.
And one that, as our source from epistles.online really emphasizes, has deeply wounded a lot of faithful Catholics.
And these aren't fringe figures.
No, the source talks about families, young people, religious converts. People who found a genuine, profound spiritual home in the traditional Latin Mass.
For them, these restrictions weren't just abstract rules, they were personal losses.
Their love for this liturgy, the source stresses, isn't about protesting the new Mass. It's about reverence for continuity.
Exactly. Many people experience deep conversions through the old rite. You see the fruits, vocations, strong families, committed daily faith. For them, it's not nostalgia,
It's a living language of faith.
a living language, a wellspring of grace, as they see it.
Now, something else our source highlights is, well, it's almost a paradox, a real contrast in treatment.
Ah, you mean between different groups in the church?
Yeah. Epistles.online points out that while these Catholics devoted to tradition face suspicion, restriction, others who might openly dissent on core teachings, say, on life or marriage.
They sometimes seem to receive leniency, maybe even approval.
Right. And the source isn't just saying that's inconsistent. It suggests it points to a deeper tension, maybe even a redefinition of what unity is supposed to mean in the church.
That's a crucial point. Is unity achieved by everyone conforming to one liturgical style? Or is it broader, more pastoral, embracing different orthodox paths?
That's the challenge the source puts forward.
And it does raise important questions about consistency, about pastoral care. The material we're using stresses, we should never be bitter or disrespectful towards Pope Francis.
Of course.
But charity includes truth. And the faithful feel they have a duty to speak up when something sacred feels like it's being taken away.
Something holy can't just become dangerous overnight.
That's the argument. The traditional Latin Mass isn't a museum piece for them. It's alive. It's beloved. And the source argues that while Traditionis Custodes might have aimed for unity,
Its effect was maybe the opposite.
the actual effect, according to the source, was quite divisive. It created a rift rather than healing one.
And yet, despite all these hurdles, the devotion, it's still strong.
Incredibly strong. It carries on. You find it in small chapels, mission stations, even private homes sometimes.
That love persists.
Because, as the source says, Christ is still with his church, including in the extraordinary form of the Mass.
And there's data on this, right? Pew Research.
The latest figures show about 2% of Catholics attend the traditional Latin Mass weekly, and around 13% have attended at least once in the last 5 years.
Now, 2% or 13% might sound small to some.
But if you connect that to the bigger picture, especially in the U.S. alone, that translates to millions of Catholics adhering to the old rite.
Millions.
Millions. And it's a clear sign, the source argues, that the TLM is actually growing, even with all the restrictions from Traditionis Custodes.
Okay, so against that backdrop, this persistent devotion, these challenges, the actual growth, all eyes turn to the new Pope, Leo XIV.
Exactly.
What is it about him specifically that's fueling this real hope for maybe a different direction?
Well, the material from www.epistles.online really captures this collective prayer. It's a hope that Pope Leo XIV might truly feel the pain people have endured.
Feel the pain.
Yeah, that he might listen with compassion, reflect deeply, and then, in God's time, consider lifting or at least easing these restrictions.
And is there anything concrete feeding that hope?
There are credible reports, mentioned in the source, that he himself celebrates the traditional Latin Mass privately.
Ah, okay. That would signal a personal understanding, maybe an appreciation?
Precisely. It suggests he gets its spiritual value on a personal level.
So, given all this, the weight of expectation, the divisions we've talked about, what are the stakes here for Pope Leo XIV's pontificate when it comes to this issue?
The source puts it quite starkly. It suggests that if he doesn't address, or maybe correct, what it sees as the errors of Pope Francis,
Then what?
then he risks becoming complicit. He risks sharing that same legacy, a pontificate potentially remembered as one of the most damaging in recent church history, marked by, as the source puts it, diluting doctrine for the world's demands.
That's quite a heavy responsibility.
It is. And this brings us to a really important question, maybe for you, our listener,
Yeah.
to think about. In our world, information travels instantly, right?
Yeah.
So how does the church navigate this? How does it preserve sacred tradition while also striving for unity? Especially when these deeply held spiritual practices are seen so differently, even by those in authority.
That's a powerful question to leave us with, a real balancing act.
Mhm.
So let's try to summarize. We've seen the undeniable impact of Traditionis Custodes on so many faithful Catholics.
Right, the sense of loss, the restrictions.
But also this resilient devotion to the old rite. It's flourishing, maybe quietly, but it's there. In chapels, homes.
And the numbers back it up. That Pew data showing millions involved in the U.S. alone, and it's growing despite everything.
Absolutely. And it's against that backdrop that all these significant hopes, these prayers, are now focused so intensely on Pope Leo XIV.
Yeah,
And for the full context, all the details behind our discussion today, we really encourage you to visit www.epistles.online.
it's a great resource.
It is. And please consider supporting his apostolate if you can, whether through prayers, maybe sharing his insightful posts, or subscribing.
Every bit helps keep his mission active, growing, and importantly, freely available to everyone.
Definitely. And we also hope you'll subscribe to the Catholic Epistles podcast on whatever platform you use so you can continue these deep dives with us. Thank you for joining us on the deep dive.